Hello, welcome everybody, lovely people. Thank you so much for joining me here. Today we're talking with one of my good friends and just a really awesome guy by the name of Atheist Jr. I just want to bring him on and welcome. AJ, welcome to the room. Thank you so much for joining us here. I really appreciate it. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here, Mark. Anytime, that we could hang out. I'm more than happy to.
Well, I feel like when we have a room, I don't get to talk to individuals as much, and it's sort of about the topic. And I really do like diving into people's worldviews and what they think and how they think, and it's very, very fascinating to me. I hope it'll be fascinating to our audience, but I find you're one of the people that I find really interesting. Your rise through YouTube has been kind of meteoric, like really, really fast. And I want to know how you feel about that. Like, do you have mixed feelings? Are you very happy about that? What's your feelings on it?
I know 100% that there's ups and downs. Like, there's advantages to growing really fast, and there's some disadvantages because one example would be the bigger an audience you get, the just based on probability, the higher amount of like shitty comments you're going to get or bad people in
Right.
the audience, and uh, I dealing with burnout is something I deal with. Like, it
Hmm.
is something that I'm conscious of. Like, I'm really happy with the video that me and Paula Gia and a bunch of other people, Miss Parker, Mark Stoney, a bunch of other people
Yeah.
worked on that just came out recently. But it was a lot of work leading up to that video, and
Mm.
uh, the research was very in depth. But shout out to Paula Gia. He's just a great guy and a great guy to collaborate with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a great video. I did enjoy it. But you sort of mentioned the shitty comments, and so how do you square those away? How do you deal with them yourself?
well, I've definitely gotten a thicker skin in the time I've been on YouTube. Like, you do get used to it, and um,
Is that a good thing?
well, I think it's just a part of, being able to do YouTube is such a great opportunity. I think it's just something that goes along with the territory. It's something that,
Mm,
obviously nobody should be harassed, but you're going to have people, obviously people are free to leave comments
right.
that disagree with me. It's just that, people speculating on your sexuality and stuff like that is kind of
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just stupid. Um, and sometimes I delete stuff. And I think if you're a channel owner, then that's fully your right. If you don't
Hmm.
want that type of comment in your platform, then you shouldn't have to tolerate it. Although I think some people might ban too much. I don't really ban or delete comments very often, but I will if I feel like I need to, like anti-vaxxer stuff. Like, I'll delete
Oh yeah.
those,
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's against
Spam.
terms of service, right? So you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah. And sort of you mentioned burnout and stuff. Have you really felt that? Especially I know that you've been getting some pretty awful comments lately. Have you felt that a lot more recently, or what was the time where you felt that the most?
Well, the time I can think of was after I did my second debate with Hovind.
Yes. Yep.
Um, that was, I mean, that video got, it was one of the biggest debates of the year.
Yeah.
I think that goes without saying. And so there was a lot of attention, and there was a lot of uh, comments on my channel that were, you know, from my own audience, that some were really positive, some were critical of me.
Yep.
And, I just had to step away from YouTube for a little while for my own mental health after that. And
Mm.
it wasn't just because of YouTube. I also had some, personal mental health stuff, but
Sure, yeah.
that's the time that I can think of. But my audience was super supportive, which is really
Mm.
good.
Yeah. So that sort of being able to turn it off and go away would be your sort of way of coping with that kind of that kind of burnout. It's just, hey, leave it, come back to it. It does sound like a pretty good strategy. I do notice that sort of being here, I sometimes go, no, I'm not going to check comments today, and then I find myself checking comments and going, the lure of it is something that I've only recent. Do you feel that as well? It like kind of sucks you back in to that world.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But that's why I think it is sort of necessary to be able to have a sort of a thicker skin. That way I can check comments and not have to sort of dread it. I can just check it because usually the comments that I get that are kind of negative are from Kent Hovind fans. And usually I just tell
Sure.
myself,
Yep.
this person believes that the earth is 6,000 years old. So I'm not going to put very much stock in what they're saying.
And the Loch Ness Monster, presumably.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what do you think's the best comment you've ever received? Like, has there been any that have really, really hit you as, that's why I'm asking is I got this comment that just said, I'm glad you exist to me. And for some reason that just, it hit me really hard. And I adore the person that sent it. Just something so simple. And it really hit me as so genuine. Has anything hit you like that you can remember, or is there so many that you couldn't pick one out?
Well, I know that there have been some. I don't remember what they were off the top of my head because they were like really long, detailed comments. But I usually like comments where somebody tells me that they were laughing at one of my videos. And I can remember one comment that somebody told me that they were in the hospital recovering and they had been watching my videos and that helped them. Obviously that's a difficult time.
Yeah.
And watching YouTube help them get their mind off of, recovering and having pain and stuff. And that made me feel good, that I could, I guess, help somebody in that way, and I like to entertain people. So I love to get comments like that of just people saying that they laughed at something in my video,
So it's that bringing of joy that really is the thing that gives you the most pleasure.
Absolutely.
I think sort of getting people to think and getting people to, I'm not the funniest guy out there, I must admit, but I do like getting people to think and consider things. So I think we're slightly different, but that's wonderful, AJ. I really like that. So bring it back around to the crux. What I want to know, and the main question I wanted to ask in this interview, the real thing I want to know is, why Kent Hovind? Like, I mean, I get that he's an awful person, like he's just awful, but why him specifically? There's a lot of awful creationists out there, and yeah, he's pretty bad. He's really bad, but there are other ones out there. Is there anything specifically about him that because you focus a lot on him, and while I think that's worthwhile, I'm wondering, what's your motivation for that?
Well, it's kind of a couple reasons. So before I started my YouTube channel, I was already watching Kent because I got really into. I was a big R and Raw fan, and I still am.
Yes. Yep.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
saw his debate with Kent, or the discussion, back
Right.
when non sequitur was still a thing.
And that was the videos going back and forth, right? I think I did see them. Yeah.
That was the second. So they had a discussion. Kent calls it a debate, but Aaron wanted it to be called a discussion where there wasn't
Right.
like equal time. It was just an open discussion the whole time. And then Kent got really mad because he claimed that Aaron was interrupting him like over 100 times or something like that in that video. And
Hmm.
so then Kent suggested that they have a debate, but that it be a video exchange debate. And
Yes.
those are some of my favorite videos on YouTube, Arn's videos.
Mm.
And so I got really into watching the debates that he did, and I found a lot of atheist channels through that. And
Yep.
just watching Kent was a guilty pleasure for me.
Sure. Yeah.
I can't really explain it, but I also was a big fan of channels that had done debunking videos of Kent, like Thunderfoot and King Crocoduck, channels like that. And I love those videos. And I started making some of those videos on my own, just experimenting. And then that's sort of
Mhm.
how my channel got started. And then I don't know, it just kind of snowballed to where I did the Apologia video, and
Yep.
then like I started taking it more seriously, paying attention to Kent, and you know, researching the stuff and compiling it for those videos. And I don't know, it just sort of became like a weird job. But I am always wanting to branch out, though. That is something I'm conscious of.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you're doing it. I don't think I would have learnt half the stuff about him that I have, if you weren't out there sort of, making it known to everybody. So I really do appreciate that. Is this? But you say you don't know why. So basically, we don't know why you focused on Kent specifically, except this: you looked up to Aaron Ra and you had he had a run in with him. Is there anything that you what would you say is his worst? I mean, he's got a lot of bad qualities. What's his worst quality in your opinion? What sort of makes you go, oh, this guy is just terrible?
I would probably say the way he's condescending,
Mm.
his arrogance. That's probably the worst thing, because if you're a teacher, whether or not we want to debate did Kent teach or not, there are people that look up to him as an authority
Oh
figure,
yes,
and
yes.
look up to him as a teacher. So if you're going to be a teacher, I don't think that you should be arrogant and looking down on people that are your students or whatever. Or if you're trying to put out content that you think is educational, you shouldn't do it in a
Mm.
condescending way, you know?
Especially when you don't have scientific facts like he
Right.
does.
Right.
That's I guess I have met quite a few teachers that are condescending, but they've at least been right about what they're talking about instead of
Right. That's what makes it
100%
even
wrong.
worse.
Right,
Because
right.
he's
No, I get that.
arrogantly wrong. He's like
Yeah.
wrong, but he's arrogant in. Have you ever been in an argument with somebody where you know that they're wrong, but they're so convinced that they're right, and they're
Yeah.
like, that's frustrating. And I think
Yeah.
that's frustrating.
Yeah.
That's why people respond to him. That's probably why I did it, because he challenges people. And
Mm.
maybe this is a mistake on my part, but he's always challenging people to respond to his claims or whatever, or debate him. We've both
Yeah.
debated him multiple times.
Oh yeah.
And so that, I'm sure that plays into part of the reason, because he's very like confrontational, like come at me, bro, type
Right. That
person.
debate bro culture kind of
Yeah.
thing. That culture has been, sort of gaining traction on YouTube. What do you think about the whole sort of debate culture, debate me bro stuff that's sort of, wandering around YouTube at the moment?
Well, I mean, I think that YouTube debates about science or creationism, religion, atheism, or whatever, they're strictly for entertainment purposes. I don't think that any science is being settled in these debates. I do think people have their minds changed sometimes when watching these debates. Sometimes that happens. Um, but I feel like there's a crisis of opponents when it comes to Christians. I'm just wondering, like, when you have opponents like Kent and Mr. Batman, your last debate with him, it's like,
Mm.
or Nephilim Free, or it's like
Yeah.
they're it, they're just really bad.
Yeah.
They're really bad.
I look on my sort of history of debates, and I struggle to find people that can sort of present the Christian worldview in a way that's actually challenging. You've got people like Gavin and Praise, and even Maddox. Maddox doesn't want to debate God. He wants to debate intelligent designer kind of thing, because, you know, actually saying, hey, this Christian God exists is too much of a stretch, which is strange, because they'll go around saying it. And I don't know whether this annoys you as well. They'll go around saying it, but they don't actually defend that concept. They defend something else. They defend a deistic God instead of a Christian God, which is odd and weird. But, you know, I think it's just the burden is too far. What do you think?
No, I agree. And this has been pointed out before that in some of these arguments with these people, you could say, well, even if I grant what you're saying is right, that would only get you to a deistic God creating the
Right,
universe.
right.
You still, even if you know what you're saying is true, it doesn't prove that it's your specific God.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this has been pointed out, and I find it to be kind of, I guess, hypocritical, because, you know, Maddox is the best example, but these people who
Right.
want to argue for ID, but they don't want to specifically say it's Christianity. And that's what the proponents of intelligent design did in the courts. They didn't want to, they were trying to hide the fact that it was Christianity specifically,
Right,
that it was
right.
just a gussied up creationism with science word salad put on it.
And the court saw through it. They said, you know, that's, its roots are definitely in Christianity.
But the Bible says to preach the good news to every creature, to tell everybody about Jesus.
The reason for your hope. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so it seems like that's a failure of doing that. At least, well, you could say, you know, Mr. Batman is not very good in his debates, but, you know, at least he's specific about what his
Yes, he
beliefs
is.
are.
Yep.
I could give him credit for that.
I believe it's 1 Peter 3:15. It's always be ready to give the reasons for your hope, and also it says do so with charity and kindness, or something along those lines. Which do you feel that we see a lot of charity and kindness from the Christians that we debate?
Well, Sal is nice.
That's true. Yeah, Sal is a lovely guy. Yep.
Yeah. Not especially, but that plays into what you're talking about with the culture of debating, and it is confrontational, so that kind of makes sense. And, you know, we have in our heads what we think a Christian is supposed to act like, but most people aren't like that way. They're not like Mormons, you know, they're still everyday people. But I don't. I mean, if you just look at the Mr. Batman debate, I mean, it gets to the point where people can't even follow the rules of the debate or debate about the actual topic. It becomes a real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I generally, I don't know about you, I generally go in with sort of a reciprocal view of how my attitude is going to come. If you want to have a nice discussion, then I can have a nice discussion. I can have a discussion. If you want to be, you know, nasty, then I'm not afraid to get into the trenches. What would you say that your style is when you do get one of those really nasty people on the end of the debate? Do you have anything that you do to get you through it, or to address that kind of stuff?
Well, I guess it depends on the person. When it came to the Hovind debate, I knew what he was trying to do, and I knew that he was trying to get a rise out of me and sort of get me to be upset and emotional or hot-headed or whatever. And I just kind of stonewalled him. Like, you know, I'm sure you don't really watch American basketball, but, you know, I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan. You know, we have 5 championships, and one of the big reasons of that is our power forward Tim Duncan, who's retired, but he would, you know, Shaquille O'Neal would go up against a lot of players, and they would talk shit to each other, you know, during the game.
Right.
But he said that when he went up against Tim Duncan, one of the greatest NBA players of all time, he would just be stonewalled. he couldn't get to him. No matter what he said, the guy would just work hard, and he couldn't. He just had to keep going, and he couldn't break through him and get him off of his game like that. And
Right. Right.
I think just staying focused is a good strategy. Not
Hmm.
letting, ignoring the personal digs and ignoring the stuff that is fallacious, where they're trying to get you off of the topic or twist
Right.
what you're
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
and stay on what you want to talk about. And it can be hard, but
Yeah.
I think you're really good at that. So that's why I enjoy watching
Oh,
your
thank you.
debates.
Well, I mean, I do get dragged into it a little bit. I must admit, I would like to be more stonewalled than sort of. I generally find though people trying to affect me like that, I find it kind of funny. I got to be honest, I kind of find it kind of funny because, it's actually. It's helping me because you're not actually debating the topic, and I can point that out. You're not debating the topic. You're just being an ass, basically. But I've had a few debates that have been them just trying to make me mad, and it something changed in my head where I said, "Hey, this works for me because you're basically giving up the debate." I know why they're doing it, but I find it very. I find it odd that people say, "Hey, I liked you in this debate," or what you did was fantastic. I don't see myself as doing anything other than just being me, in my weird autistic way. But apparently it works. But it's kind of weird to me. Is there a subject that you'd like to debate? Is there anything else outside of just theology, evolution, science that you feel strongly about, like anything political or socioeconomic that you feel strongly about?
Well, I have talked about debating topics of like gender or
Mm-hmm.
pro-choice. I'm pretty passionate about those subjects. I don't know if I would actually do a debate on that, but I did tell Standing for Truth that, because I've been so annoyed watching Kent when he talks about, uh, oh, there's only two genders, blah
Yeah.
blah. I told him, "Hey, if Kent will do a debate with me about are there more than two genders, if he agrees to it, I will do it." And I never got
Mm-hmm.
any word back, uh, just because I
Probably a
would
better chance
love.
to get Matt Powell in on that one, right? Because he's very outspoken about that crap.
I've tried to get Matt Powell to debate me several times, and he will not
Right.
do it. He
Yeah.
won't do it. He's had 8 debates total. He keeps flaunting the fact that he made the Raging Atheist cry in their debate. Um, you know, uh, but he won't debate you. I mean, he's never debated you.
No, I've
I've asked Donnie to set up debate with him and
mm,
me. He like 3 times, and he just won't do it. Um, so that's why I get annoyed when I see him like flaunting, "Oh, I've challenged all these atheists." It's like, well, no, you really haven't. You've done a
it's
couple
a
debates,
yeah,
and
it's a hollow challenge. Yeah.
you've posted
Yeah.
edited versions of the debates on
Mm,
your channel. So that's not impressive to me.
mm. No, I agree. It's not impressive to me either. It actually shows an incredible insecurity for someone to go, "Oh, I challenge anybody to come back," and then you're sort of, "Well, I won't take a debate." Well, why are you challenging people then? Um, yeah, it's kind of threatening people with a gun and never actually pulling the trigger. Like, just get in there and support yourself. But abortion's a big thing for you. Um, yeah, sorry, go ahead, AJ.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, yeah. I live in Texas, and our
Right,
governor
right.
has, just recently done a lot of really stupid things when it comes to the laws here about people's right to abortion. And we have an election coming up. I'm going to vote probably tomorrow or soon, because I'm registered to vote. And it's just so ridiculous. It's kind of it's an interesting topic. It's a controversial topic, obviously. So I don't know if I would want to debate on that, but it might be interesting, you know, because uh, I mean, not to get on a soapbox or whatever, but I find it really annoying. I've watched some debates, like Marco Rubio debated his opponent, and they got on the topic of abortion, and he kept saying how, oh, she won't say what, you know, what number of weeks she would support as a term limit. And I'm just thinking, like, that's because this arbitrary number of weeks that Republicans want to put on, like our Governor Greg Abbott, I think did a 6 weeks, something like that. And you can't put an arbitrary number because it's not going to match every single pregnancy.
Right.
You know, and most of the time, you know, somebody's not even going to know they're pregnant up
At
until that
6 weeks,
point.
yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
times, and that's why it's annoying. It's kind of a straw man argument, like saying, oh, well, like I saw a Fox News article or video that said, oh, this person dodged the question about if they would support this term limit. And it's like, well, it's a stupid question, you know. We shouldn't have an arbitrary number. You can't put a number on it for every person.
Right. Do you think it's that they don't understand the actual science of what they're talking about? Do you think that because 6 weeks is almost nobody is going to know they're pregnant at 6 weeks, right?
I think that part of it might be that there's definitely some evidence of that, but you know, some people say that they do it deliberately to be cruel, you know. I don't know.
Right. So to sort of say, well, we've given you what you've wanted, but it isn't really, you know, helpful in any way. It's sort of an empty gift kind of thing.
Yeah. They just want to, they don't want to give up an inch, you know, because it's become a political football where they know that they're going to score points with people like Matt Powell and Kent Hovind. There's a lot of voters who are like that, who any support the other direction is going to anger them, you know, but a lot of them don't understand it, you know, and because a lot of it's male politicians who don't have an understanding of the you know, the specifics of that. And
yes.
Yeah.
Where do you lean politically? Like, if you don't mind me asking.
I would call myself a leftist. Like, you know, I vote Democrat. You know, I'm pro LGBT rights. I'm pro gun rights. I think people should be able to own guns, but they should do it responsibly. Like, it's better to have a population that has had some sort of training with a firearm and firearm safety, and can defend themselves rather than not, of course.
That's where we're going to disagree. We can definitely have a debate over that one, AJ.
Okay. Well, I am Texan, so.
Well, no, yeah, that's fine. I am strongly anti-gun, so there's a disagreement.
That's how Australia is, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess I'm a pragmatist, and I speak from the idea of our country already has so many guns in here already that I guess I like the idea of people knowing how to handle one safely, since, you know, our country is already so full of them. We're not going to get rid of them the way Australia did. I don't think that'll ever happen. So I think it's always better to be educated about stuff, you know, even if you don't own one.
Sure.
I think.
Sure. And look, I'm not saying that the US and Australia are analogous. There's a lot of differences between us, even though superficially you'll say, hey, they're both Western culture. There's some major cultural differences that I've noticed between the two countries. And it's strange. The US sort of has I find it hard to describe. It's this idea of elitism. Like, if you made it to the top, then you deserve to be there, kind of thing. This very elitist mentality, while Australia doesn't. It still does, but not to the degree that America does. It values people trying and failing, basically, whereas the US has sort of well, if you fail, it's your own fault and tough luck kind of thing.
Yeah. And I will say to the person in the chat, I know that Democrats aren't leftists, but I was only
Yeah.
saying that I'm going to vote Democrat because obviously I'm not going to vote Republican, you know.
Yeah, well, let's be fair. The Democrats may not be leftist, but they're definitely to the left of the Republicans. Let's,
Yeah. So if I guess I'll say a couple more things. Like I'm definitely for the reform of our illegal immigration system in America. I think it's really
Mhm.
terrible. Um, I mean, these countries are so destabilized already that you have a lot of people who are refugees or they're seeking asylum in America. And our system of immigration, legally immigrating, can sometimes take up to 10 years. And
Mm.
so when people are in an emergency situation like that, it's no surprise that they're going to do it illegally. And it seems to me that our government is more secured with putting men with guns on the border than they are with fixing the actual problems that cause people to want to illegally immigrate in the first place.
Right.
And, you know, there are statistics about the number of people who die of thirst trying to cross the Mexican border into Texas. It's really fucked up.
Mhm.
There's this charity called Border Angels that goes and leaves gallon jugs of water out in the deserts of Mexico
Does that
for those.
annoy some Republicans? Does that
I'm sure
it
it
does?
does, but that can
So that
literally be the
mm,
difference between life and death for some of these
life,
people.
right, right. I hate to think it, but I think that sometimes that some people in Texas would rather they die. Um, that's how it feels to me. Although, what do you think? You're obviously somebody in Texas.
Well, I wish that maybe it's idealism, but I wish that more could be done in a joint effort between the United States and Mexico, or between North America and South America, to do more to make it so people uh, have more stability and safety in their home countries and they want to
Mm,
live there.
yeah,
Because obviously, if you reduce that problem, that's it's like treating the root problem rather than trying to treat a symptom of the problem.
right.
And you know, the like I said, if you make it more viable for people to do it legally, then you also decrease the number of illegal immigrants. But like you were saying, like the Republicans, it does seem like they care more about saying, "Oh, we deported this number of illegal immigrants, or we stopped this number of illegal immigrants," and there's the whole thing of separating families at the border, which Trump did a lot, but it was started
Yeah.
under Obama, and
Mm.
it's just a messed up situation. It's really unfortunate.
Well, it's not only the US. We have sort of boats coming over from Indonesia here, and they deport them. Well, they don't deport them. They hold them in detention centers offshore in Nauru, and they're hellholes, and the people are treated badly. And I understand that you can't just let everybody into the country, and I don't think anybody's arguing for open borders kind of thing. But if you're going to hold people and assess them, you can at least do it in your own country where you've got oversight and some sort of way to ensure that their safety. That is the yeah. I think it's a common thread through Western countries of sort of ignoring the plight of the less fortunate countries around them. I would totally agree. Um, you did mention sort of legal immigrants, but what are your feelings on illegal immigrants? There's a lot of people in, say, California and places like that, right, that have come in illegally. Um, and so, what's your feelings on that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, it's a complicated situation because you know they have this term like anchor babies, where you have somebody who did commit a crime by crossing into the country illegally, but then they have a child once they're in the country. Sometimes they're pregnant when they're crossing, and that child has
Right.
done nothing wrong. They haven't done anything illegal. Do they
Mm,
deserve to be sent back to a homeland that they have never known? They've grown up
right.
in America.
Right.
Should they be separated from their parents? I mean, that's a really difficult situation. And the
Mm.
people doing that, I think they know that it's a lot harder for the law to do that, to separate those people or to do things when a child is involved. That's why they call them
Mm.
anchors. It's kind of a nasty term, but that to me that shows how desperate the situation is.
Right.
And I don't really have there's not really going to be an easy answer to that situation. I think it's going to require cooperation from a lot of different countries and a lot of different political groups, which is really rare to happen. But you
Mm.
know, I would say they have these sanctuary cities in California and in Texas where um, they have people living there that they know are crossed illegally, and
Right.
um, there's this really weird like conspiracy theory from Republicans that the Democrats are bringing over illegal immigrants because those people will vote Democrat, but I'm like, they can't vote. Like they're not
Right.
citizens.
Well,
I
they believe that sort of their illegal voting's going on, or somehow they're cheating the system. I guess it wouldn't be the weirdest conspiracy that I've heard, but you know,
yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. That's a tough
mm.
situation, definitely.
No, they're complex problems, no doubt, and it's good to hear nuance from you, AJ, instead of just sort of. You see so many videos that are like, "This is what we should do," and it's like that is the most simplistic answer to a massively complicated problem. It kind of reminds me when Trump said he'd send in, his son-in-law to fix the Middle East, and it's like that problem has been going for centuries, even millennia, and it's so hard to sort out. Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to sort it. So, how do you feel about the global solution? Globalism, basically, one government for everybody, with sort of sub government.
I don't really think that is a good idea because I think territories around the world are so different that
Sure.
you need individualized governments. I think globalism is something that people like Kent or Alex Jones are afraid of, like a new
Mhm.
world order sort of thing. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think that's why I think the concept of the Illuminati is so dumb because there's no way that you could have one singular group of people that like control the world because it's just too big. There's too many people, there's too much territory, and cultures are too different. I don't really see that ever really working, and humans can't cooperate for that to work either. So,
Well, I agree that humans can't cooperate for that. I think that we're not at a point where that would be a viable solution for anything. I'm talking sort of in an idealistic way here, sort of if this could be possible by some minor miracle of humans working together, would that be something you would support at all?
I don't think so because I am against the idea of government encroaching on people's personal lives, and I think that's why I think smaller governments are better. And if you have a global one, I
Hmm.
think that um, that would be not as good as having smaller individual governments, because you'd having like the issue of abortion is, I think, an issue of people being encroached on their own personal rights, their own bodily autonomy, which is
Hmm.
weird that like conservatives are against it, even though they claim to like small government, and they claim that they don't want
Yeah.
government interfering with their own rights and what they do in their own homes or their own medical issues. But yeah, I don't think I would support that.
So you've got a slight libertarian lean to you to sort of say, "Hey, it's got government." So why couldn't there be both? Like at the moment, you have state and federal government, right? So why could there not be both?
What do you mean both?
Well, like state, federal, and global governments.
Um, well, who would be in charge? That's my question. Like, who
Oh, I don't know.
would it be? Would it be something like the UN where you have ambassadors from each country?
Presumably, yeah. I mean, you'd have to have some kind of representative form of government, right? So, representative would be sent of each from each country and sort of thing. I guess I haven't really thought about specifics, but I kind of lean towards it'd be nice for someone to stop these wars we're having and stop, sort of any chance of nuclear war and have a global space program, because countries already work together for a space program, right? So that's my thoughts on it. Very limited ability to do things, but that, as I said, I don't think humans are there either. Like, I think so. And with that, I want to ask I'm going to get really deep into it, ask a really serious question. Do you think humans would make it to like the next millennium?
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't think that I don't think we'll ever see another nuclear weapon be used. I don't think, unless it's in the hands of some type of madman or terrorist,
Like North Korea or something?
Yeah, in that
Okay.
situation, maybe. I think after what we saw with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I don't think that will ever be used again. So I don't see humans wiping themselves out that way as something that could happen. I mean, it could happen, but I don't think it will. In 1,000 years, I think humans will still be around, but I think overpopulation and climate change are going to be a big problem. But I think I think they will still be around in that time, because if you look at the advances in technology, not just in the last 100 years, but in the last 20 years, the way that the internet itself, just by itself, has changed human
Right.
lives and civilization in just such a short period of time. If you think about the next 1,000 years, the number of technological advancements that will make also lifespans, the way that lifespans have gone up, I think that humans will be living longer. And I do think we'll still be around, but I think that at some point overpopulation is going to reach a critical point, and either humans are going to have to evolve to live in the sea, or we'll make some moon bases or something.
Or Mars or whatever, you think?
Yeah, maybe.
So by live in the sea, what do you mean by that? Like,
Grow gills.
Why would overpopulation cause you to live in the sea?
Well, because there's so much more water on Earth than there is land. And I'm half joking, but the Earth has so much more water that the land is being taken up by cities and countries that are expanding more and more. Like, we've already got like 7 or 8 billion people.
Yeah, I think China's developing offshore islands because it's sort of, but I don't think the major problem is the physical space for people. I think it's the drain on resources that is going to be the problem. Yeah, I think that we can fit everybody in. It's just the resources that we have are not going to last.
Have you ever played BioShock?
I have, yes. I have once. I wasn't a great fan of it, but it did have a great story, yes. The underwater city. I can't remember the name of it.
Rapture.
Right. And sort of that pseudo-religious kind of, almost cult-like worship of that one guy. I'm really dredging my memory, mate. Help me out. But so, do you think climate change is going to stop humanity, or do you think we can overcome it? What's your feelings on it?
Well, I don't think that we can overcome it by, all of us recycling a little bit more, like you and me doing it, and like driving hybrids. Like, that's not going to be enough. And that it annoys me because I feel like there's this, this misunderstanding where people say, oh, well, if each one of us just does our part, it's like, no, it has to be these major fossil fuel companies that are doing the majority of CO2 dumping into the atmosphere. They have
Yep.
to change drastically what they're doing, or else it's not going to get fixed, period.
Mm-hmm.
And there was recently this group of activists that, to raise awareness about climate change, they like threw some spaghetti sauce on a Van Gogh painting.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's, I feel like that's missing the point, because yeah, you can raise awareness among the public, but unless the major polluters drastically change something, and they're only going to do that if they do it willingly, because obviously they're making so much money by being in the business of oil and gas, natural gas. Unless they're willing to change or make a major discovery on how to stop all of the having such a big carbon footprint, nothing's going to get fixed.
So you don't think that sort of grassroots pressure will change the way that the fossil fuel industry would work?
I don't see how. I'm a
Right.
little bit pessimistic about that.
Well, presumably it would be the people put pressure on the government, which then enforce some sort of legislation to, change the way that they're happening. But you don't see that as happening at all.
Well, I mean, we all have to get around. We all drive, or most people drive cars that are not hybrids. I think if they made hybrid cars a lot less expensive, that would be a start,
Right.
because I think there's very intentionally been a push to make those. You notice how subtly this happened, where cars that are electric cars or hybrid cars got to be seen as luxury cars, like
Yes.
Tesla. I think that's stupid. They should have affordable hybrid cars so everybody can drive one. It's just, that's really dumb to me that they're so much more expensive. And I think they did that on purpose, because they know that they're making more money with, if people are getting gas
Right.
and filling up their
Well,
tanks.
and yeah, the fossil fuel industry has no intention of having electric cars outsell the normal cars. So, how do you feel about the sort of theistic position that is, it doesn't, to me, it seems like it doesn't really matter from their point of view, because they're going to be saved or taken to some place, or there's another world. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the Bible, it says that they're going to create a new heaven and a new earth, right?
Right.
So, like, Kent Hovind says, "Oh, well, it's all going to burn," like. So the only thing that matters is spiritual things, or things that Christians think are going to be eternal. I think that's a really bad attitude. I think it's better to take care of the planet that we have now, and do that for future generations, because we might not get another one. But they seem content in saying, well, after I die, I'm going to go to heaven or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of creation anyway, there's going to be a new earth created, and God already destroyed the earth, or most of everybody on the earth, with a flood one time. So he said that he wouldn't do that again. So God, we're in God's hands, he'll take care of us, sort of thing. I don't agree with that.
How do you think the best way to get through to those people is, if any at all?
I think, like you said, having reasonable conversations with people, just telling them, like talking openly and saying, well, you can talk about what you believe. I don't believe that, but I'm willing to talk to you in a way that's not mocking, or me trying to put you on display and make fun of you for having these beliefs, because
Right.
atheists are a minority. um, you know, so I think being open to talking with theists. And I think this could be a problem with some of the atheist community, that they have been standoffish or, aggressive towards talking with Christians. And I
Yeah.
get sort of that hostility. I get where it comes from, but I think at the same time, being diplomatic in the right situations and talking to the right people can be a good thing, like, catching more flies with honey sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and I do agree that you see some hostility from atheists, which I think maybe comes from mostly and not exclusively, but mostly people deconverting and feeling very angry about what they went through. Where do you think the hostility comes from? Like, where do you think this hostility from our side comes from?
Well, I think that it's because religion is seen as the root of so many other problems. I think that people are angry when they see abuse happen, like the Catholic priests, or
Right,
uh,
right.
some of the stuff in that Apologia video.
Yeah, that
Or
makes me mad. Yeah.
yeah, it's very easy to get upset about those things.
Hmm.
And I get, people get angry, I think, when they see people using religion as a cover for that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Like, we all have seen the story of like a pastor who is preaching against LGBT people, but then it's
Right.
discovered in their private life that they are actually gay.
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I and the Catholic priests, that makes me mad. I try to separate the anger at the priests and the people doing these things from the people that aren't doing these things and would condemn them, kind of thing. So, do you think a lot of that spills over and people just get mad at all theists regardless of what they've done?
Sometimes, like, if somebody comes to your front door and says, I would like to talk to you about Jesus, like, my first reaction is going to be discomfort. Like, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm not
Really?
going to want to talk to that person.
Oh, I'd love for someone to come to my door and say that. I would be so happy.
I know you would.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I like talking to them about it. I really do. I mean, I don't like the hostility that you get when you get pushed, but I do like talking to them about their beliefs. So that's something that you would go, no, awkward, hate it.
Well, I said my gut reaction would be that I
Right.
would probably still talk to that person, but that would be my instinctual reaction, would be
Yes.
feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Like, well, it's just odd. A lot of people feel uncomfortable if somebody introduces themselves in that way.
Right. Hmm. So what would be the feeling? Just awkwardness, or is it more irritation that they're coming into your life with these beliefs? What would you say that the feeling is that you get?
Well, I think part of it would be, I guess, feeling a little bit irritated that they feel like, oh, this person is going to take up my time. Like, I don't want to
Mhm.
talk to them. I'm not interested. I'm not going to go to their church. I'm not going to get converted by whatever they're saying. So I'm going to
Right.
have to humor them for however long. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever been in an airport when you've been approached by someone like that, but that does happen too. And if you're in a hurry, that could be a situation where somebody would get annoyed, definitely. Or if a lot of people don't like the fact that somebody came to their home and, is knocking on their door, possibly interrupting them during dinner, or, they see that as sort of an invasion of privacy in a way.
Why do you have to humor them? Why can't you say, "Look, I'm not interested. You're wasting your time. Just move on to the next person." Why do you have to humor them?
I think in America, we have a sort of weird sense of manners, and I feel
Okay.
like it's rude. It's rude. It's considered rude to uh, cut somebody off. Like, at least in my experience, Americans, we don't. usually say what we're really thinking. Like we'll usually hold that in. At least that's how I am.
Okay.
It might be a personality flaw, but I
No,
definitely
that's fine. And
I definitely know
yeah,
people from other countries. I've talked to people like Peter and other people from European countries, and they're not really like that. They're a bit more
no,
direct.
Peter is very direct. Yes, I will
Yeah.
agree with that. It's probably another person I do want to interview at some point as
Oh
well,
yeah,
because he's
that'd
sort
be
of
great.
really fascinating. I guess, I do see a part of that within Australia, but it's more, the politeness is more just, there's sort of a politeness to being honest about what you're thinking and what you're feeling, kind of thing. So if you're sort of, you say, hey, really sorry, don't want it, thanks anyway, kind of thing. That's the politeness that we get. It's very strange. I've noticed people in America, from where they come from, they have different standards of politeness as well. I noticed that the Midwest guys were incredibly, very, very, please and thank you kind of people, while the Eastern Seaboard definitely wasn't. They had none of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and
Do you
somebody in
think
the
that's an
chat.
accurate
Yeah, I
perception?
do. I do. Somebody in the chat said that that's like a Southern thing. That could be accurate, like Southern hospitality.
Right. So Southern hospitality, Midwestern kindness, Eastern Seaboard, New York, just basically screw you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Somebody once described to me, I think I maybe saw this on another podcast or something. Maybe somebody sort of said, "Oh, the difference between politeness and kindness in America is that someone from New York will, if you've broken down and you've got a bad tire or something, that you need to change it. Someone from New York will curse you out while they help you, and someone from California would go, "Oh, that's so horrible, that's awful," but drive on by, kind of thing. Do you get what I mean? Like, and I thought that was very interesting. Would you agree with that sort of sentiment?
Uh, yeah. I mean, I have only been to California once, but that does
Mhm.
sound pretty accurate to me.
Yeah. I've heard from a lot of people it's sort of very, very fake. Have you been to other places in the world? Have you traveled much? Have you seen the rest of the world?
I've never left America, but I have
Mhm.
been to I've been to New York City, um, Portland, Oregon,
Mm,
California, Las Vegas, all over Texas. Texas is a
right.
huge state. Um, Mexico. I lived on the border of Texas and Mexico for a few years,
Mhm.
but I South Padre Island, but I've never actually been in the country of Mexico. Um, yeah, that's about it.
So
I've
you've
never,
had the American experience, yeah.
yeah, never left the country though.
It may be worth it to get out there and see the rest of the world. Like, even just Canada is vastly different, I've heard. So that sounds interesting, though. I don't have a lot of wish to go to America. Is there anywhere that you would say was the best place to go?
In America?
Yeah.
Well, I forget what it's called, but like, oh, the Pacific Northwest is beautiful.
Mhm.
I loved
Right.
my time there in Portland and Northern California. They call it NorCal.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Like where I live is kind of ugly compared to there because
And
there's
that's
so many
like
forests.
Colorado and stuff, all the
Uh,
mountains and things.
no, Colorado is actually closer to where I live. It's on the border of
Okay.
Texas, but that's like way in the top left corner of the United States, like Seattle, Washington,
Mhm.
and all those states up there by Canada, really
Right.
close to Canada.
Yeah.
Oregon. Texas is good, but I would say Austin, Texas, and San Antonio are probably the only places I would really want to go to because there's a lot of cities you don't want to go to in Texas, like Laredo. You don't want to go there; you'll get
Okay.
killed. They'll shoot
Yeah,
you.
I've heard there's a few places in America that you just sort of avoid as a tourist. So that hasn't made me feel very Very safe for thinking about going to America, which is strange to think of
Can
a
we
first
can we
world.
talk about painting?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, bring it up. So I
Okay.
know that you've done a few paintings in your spare time, and you really enjoy it. Um, so what do you um, why do you paint? Like what do you get out of it? What do you?
Well, I just enjoy trying new things, and I like the creativity of it, and it's a way to help me relax. Um, it it's something that I do uh, as a creative outlet that's not YouTube,
Mhm.
because I don't want to always just be checking the comments like you said and focusing on
Yeah.
that. It gives me another outlet where I can just if I am stressed out about that, I can just forget about it and get absorbed into my work in a painting. And I started off with acrylics, but I recently got into oil painting, which is a lot more difficult. It's a lot more daunting.
Mhm.
But I've really been enjoying it. Can I show you
Yeah,
two
of
of my
course,
paintings?
of
Okay,
course. So,
hold
and
on.
you were a makeup artist, right? So, how much has that influenced your sort of? Has it been something that you've been attracted to because of that, or just found it completely separately?
Um, I haven't really thought about that. I worked as freelance makeup artist, taking
Hmm.
appointments for a few years, and I took a personal interest in it too. It was
Yeah.
one of the things that I realized when I came out was that I felt a lot more comfortable in being a guy who's also interested in makeup. That was sort of around the same time that I came out that I realized, like, oh, this is not something to be like weirdly ashamed of or whatever.
So
And
you mean, sorry, you mean came out as bi, not as came
yeah,
out as an atheist, because they're both used as sort of very
yeah,
similar
no,
experiences.
yeah, I came out as bi. I
Yeah.
felt a lot more comfortable, posting pictures. And it has become a lot more accepted of guys
Mm,
wearing makeup.
sure.
But
Guy
yeah, it's
line is
just
a thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
just some.
absolutely.
I don't know if it crossed over into doing artwork. I never really thought about that, but it makes sense.
I want to see your painting though. Where's your where's the painting?
I did a Bob Ross painting.
Oh, that's really good. Wow, that's I'm getting feelings of serenity. I'm getting feelings of peacefulness. I'm getting feelings of awe. That's beautiful, AJ. That's awesome. And all the best to Bob Ross. What a guy. Um,
And then I also have this one.
oh wow. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
I do like apples. You know this to be true, AJ. We've had this conversation. Just for everybody out there, I love apples, and if you can get hold of an Australian hybrid called a Pink Lady, best apple out there. We've had this
Yes.
conversation, AJ. I've been very emphatic on this. I've been very, very emphatic on this. So that's amazing, and I really admire anybody with that sort of artistic. That artistic bent, because I'm sort of artistically challenged. I'm useless at anything anything artistic. I'm terrible at. So that's amazing, AJ. I'm really happy. So what feelings do you get when you do these? Is it sort of just a peacefulness?
Yeah, well, one of the things that Bob Ross talks about is that there's a feeling of power when you're doing a painting, a landscape, because you're you have the ability to create mountains,
Right,
and
right.
that's sort of a godlike feeling that you can, with
Mm,
such a small amount of effort, create, even if it's just a picture,
yeah.
these huge structures. And I think that's pretty interesting. And the fact that you have your creativity where you get to choose whatever you want, to be in that landscape,
Mm,
that's another good thing about painting, is that you can paint whatever you want.
mm.
I've been doing the still lifes, like I did the painting of a pair that I posted on my community tab that people really liked, because I've
Yeah,
been practicing oil painting, and that's a good way to get started, because
yeah.
it's intimidating. Like, it's a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
harder.
absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah, I will say
Oh,
that.
as I said, I'm absolutely intimidated by that because I've got no artistic talent whatsoever. But um, the um, the paintings you that's really good, AJ.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy. Um, I think that resonates. Actually, my wife is a writer, and she says very similar things about writing. You get to create your world kind of thing, and sort of have in it what you want to be in it, rather than sort of having to accept reality as it is, which sort of really resonates with what you're saying. And I think there's a lot of artistic. I was talking to do you remember Oz? He just dropped an album, and his sort of emotions pouring into his album. It was really good. I think a lot of artistic things are like that. But that's fantastic. Do you see that as something you're going to continue for the rest of your life? Is it something that you feel really passionate about, or is it more just a thing to keep you relaxed over this sort of YouTube nightmare that we're all part of?
Yeah, I'll probably continue to do it. It's just it's a hobby, and
Mm.
it's something that I sort of fall in and out of. Like,
Right,
I
right.
I was painting a lot with acrylics for a while, and then I kind of stopped for a few months, and then I got back into it. And you know, um, I think one thing is, like, if you don't think that there's anything artistic that you're good at, maybe you just haven't found the medium that suits you yet, because
Perhaps, yeah, yeah.
there's so many different ways that so many different medium that you can use. That's why it's fun to try different things.
Mm.
Um, you know, I I might want to take up sculpting sometime, or
Right.
work with glass or metal. Glass blowing, I think, is really cool. It's something I've always wanted to
Mm.
do. Um,
Well, I mean, I've watched that show on Netflix called Blown Away, kind of thing, and they do amazing things. It's sort of a competition. If you haven't seen it, it's actually pretty amazing. Um, yeah, I've enjoyed it, but I can't see myself doing that. But that's something you'd like to try, is glass blowing.
yeah, I've always
Okay.
just thought it looked really cool.
Hmm. Have you ever painted miniatures? That's something I used to do when I was a kid.
No, I haven't, but that is also something that I've watched some YouTube videos on, and it does look really fun, like those
So
Warhammer
yeah,
figures.
Warhammer 40K and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
And to the person in the chat, I haven't done any portrait paintings, because yeah, painting faces does seem really intimidating. I don't think I'm quite there yet, so I'm still learning.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But the painting miniatures is kind of, it's easier because all of the impressions you can sort of just let the paint fall into it, kind of thing, and it will make shadow by itself because it's not a 2D surface; it's three-dimensional kind of thing. So it's a lot easier,
Yeah.
way easier. But I kind of, sucked at it and sort of fell out of it. But I know we're both gamers. And does gaming calm you? That's basically my go-to when I feel stressed out, is sort of you know the
Yeah,
sort of
absolutely.
creativity thing.
Definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah,
I definitely enjoy that. Uh, Absolutely. I built my own PC, and
nice.
that was part of what helped me to grow on YouTube. Was I was able to make videos that had a better production value,
Mm,
and Yeah, although I haven't been playing games recently because I had to reinstall Windows on my computer because I was
Yep.
having driver problems, and since then I've kind of I was playing really heavily, but I've sort of taken a break. I want to get back
Mm.
into it though.
What do you usually play? What? Oh, if not specific games, what's your usual genres that you go to?
Well, I was playing Resident Evil really heavily, like
Okay.
Resident Evil 2 the remake. I played the
Hmm.
original
Hmm.
PlayStation game on my phone through an emulator. I like shooters, and
Well, you are
I
Texan, so yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was playing a lot of Power Washing Simulator. That game is weirdly addicting.
So I've heard. Yeah, I haven't played that one, but so I've heard. It is sort of really relaxing in that sort of you know um, weird way. I might give it a try, but I don't know. There's something about it that I just go, well, it takes ages, and you're not, you're just doing chores kind of thing. Like it seems a bit weird.
Well, I recently used a power washer on my driveway because
Okay.
we have a block captain and she let us borrow
Mhm.
hers.
I'm sorry, a block captain. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I live in a neighborhood and we have a neighborhood society, whatever, and there's like a president of the neighborhood organization. And
Okay.
she was able to buy a pressure washer and write it off as on her taxes.
Right. Okay. As sort of an
And
organizational expense kind of thing.
yeah,
Gotcha.
and so
Mm.
it's instead of somebody who lives in the neighborhood having to pay to buy one, they can just
Mm.
borrow that one. So it's
Hmm.
shared among the neighborhood residents, among other things.
So is this sort of this community organization that you have? Is that sort of do neighborhood watch and things like that? Is that what they're doing?
Something like that.
Okay,
They
that's
put out a
interesting.
newsletter. Yeah.
Really? Well, I don't think we really have them over here, but we do have shires. I'm not sure if you know what those are. They're kind of local government kind of thing. So every area will have its shire, and that shire will have a government with management, and they take care of trash and certain things, sort of community events and things like that. But it's weird
Yeah.
that you've got an unofficial version.
Well, I think it's pretty official.
Oh, okay. What is that sort of like a something that is in American governance, or is it just something that's arisen?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's like actually part of the government's, but like I said, it's right. It's she's able to write it off on her taxes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like they have a lawyer. Like there is politics involved in there. Like there's
Yeah.
sometimes legal disputes, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's something that is done all over America, but uh,
Hmm.
we have it here. I don't know. It's
Yeah, well, I mean, a business can write off expenses on tax. It doesn't need to be a part of governance to do that.
that's true.
If you buy a photocopier, you can write it off on tax as long as you're using a bit. So that's not really indicative. But it sounds like these have just arisen sort of organically from people realizing, whereas in the sort of Commonwealth, shires are actually a thing that is sort of, instituted by the political system to organise that kind of thing, and everyone's incredibly displeased with their shire, and shenanigans abound. Um, what do you think your position in the atheist movement is? Can you give me your thoughts and feelings on where you lie in the atheist landscape of YouTube, and even outside of YouTube?
Uh, well, my channel is smaller. I'm a smaller creator, but I have been able to make some waves in the atheist community. Like when on my Twitter, I had that I put out that video about that sermon that Matt Powell did, and then
Yep.
that got picked up by the Friendly Atheist. He did an article on that. My channel has been featured on PZ Meyer's blog a couple times now. It got featured again recently because he linked the Apologia video, and that video got a lot of attention.
The Cindy
first
Lincoln
one,
interview was huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I think I've been able to have some influence. There are definitely bigger channels, but you know, I'm just happy to be a part of it. You know, I think it's a great community, and I really enjoy doing the type of activism that I've been able to do, especially if it can help people like Cindy, or you know, spread awareness about some of the abuses of these Christians, you know, or even doing debates. You know, and all of it is getting more experience doing YouTube and being on camera, or doing debates with you as like a partner. I'm always happy to get more debate experience. So, yeah, I think I have a part. I play a part in it, but you know, I'd like to grow. I'm always willing to do more. You know, so I'm just honored to have the opportunity.
Yeah, I didn't see myself being part of a community when I first sort of entered the realm, but about a year ago. But it is an amazing, wonderful community. I do agree. I do think that you have a really bright future ahead of you, AJ. I think you do amazing work, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted you on here. I wanted to really talk to you about sort of where you came from, and what you saw as important, and what you saw going forward, because I really respect your positions on it. So how did you become an atheist in particular? Were you born into a secular household? Was your household religious?
Not really. Like my dad was, but when I was in Sunday school, I remember them telling us the story of Noah's Ark. I heard that for the first
Right.
time,
Right.
and yeah, I was just, I can remember thinking that, like, well, there's no way that they could have that many animals on a wooden boat, and there's no way that they would be able to feed all of them, and you know, have them live that long. And you know, I wasn't, after that, I was pretty much just never convinced of the whole thing. And then you know, my mom and me stopped going to church. And so I was just indifferent for most of my life. I guess when I became like 17, 18, I became more hardened in being an atheist, more interested in atheist activism, I guess, recently. But yeah, I would never really have considered myself to be a Christian, other than just my parents take me to church and I'm defaulting to whatever their religion is, you know. But I never chose on my own accord to say I'm this religion.
Do you ever remember a time where you were like, yes, this is what I believe? I do, like even before the Noah's Ark thing, I believe in a God kind of thing.
No.
Do you think that was because your mother wasn't particularly religious?
I don't think so. I just found church really boring. I was just not interested in it. You know, I wanted to stay home, sleep in, and like play video games. I didn't want to go to church.
I can understand that completely. Is there any beliefs that you had that later on you sort of went, it's weird that I believed that? Is there anything else that you would have said throughout your life that you had a belief in that you then reconsidered?
I'm sure there is. I don't know if I could think of one off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't know. Probably, but nothing major like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah, because I mean, I sort of make no bones about I came from a sort of secular household, but my mother did believe in astrology and basically woo, just general new age woo. And I did believe that for a long while actually. So I would happily admit there's things that I've been completely wrong about. So what's interesting to me is that you've sort of started out from well, I'm not going to believe this stuff. Did you really latch onto science, or is there anything else that you latched onto when you were younger that sort of made you doubt or didn't convince you of religion?
Well, I guess the problem of evil was something that even as a young kid I thought about.
Right. Yep.
And I can remember another reason was when I first learned about stars changing. Like when I first learned that the sun is going to become a red giant, like I was distraught for like a week when I was a kid. I was like, I can't believe that that they just told us that the sun is going to swallow up our entire planet and it's going to be destroyed. Like it really affected me, you know? And part of that was me thinking, well, you know, how could, like, it doesn't make sense that a God would create the earth if we're just going to be destroyed later. And to me, that sort of suggested that maybe we live in a more indifferent universe rather than one that is where we're all special and the earth is specifically created for
Right.
humans to live on. You know, that was something I thought about a lot.
Right. It's kind of, yeah, it's sort of hard to screw that sort of scientific objective sort of fact about the world, being destroyed by the sun is sort of, well, if there's a God, why doesn't he just stop that? Why?
And the Holocaust, when I learned about that.
Yeah, so I might take some questions from the audience, but I just have one last question of my own. I know I've just been peppering you, AJ. That's sort of the idea of the interview, and I found it really fascinating. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I just want to know, like, where would you like to see the atheist movement go? What would you like to see out of the whole thing? If numbers or anything wasn't a problem, what would you like to see happen?
Gee, that's a tough one. I guess I would like to see the number of atheists increase in my country and all over the world. Really, that would be a good thing. And because I think if you look at countries that are more secular, they have higher rates of literacy and lower crime rates. I mean, it's debatable if that is because there's more atheism there. But I mean, if you
Yeah.
compare it to a country like Saudi Arabia or the deep South in America, and you look at the murder rates, um, it's either way. I would like to see those numbers go up. And yeah, I guess just more people getting interested in science. Maybe less of a focus on saying that you only people with degrees should be able to talk about science or be science communicators. I think the general public can get involved, even if, because not everybody is going to have a science degree. I think
Right.
if we can increase the general public in getting interested in science and definitely more understanding evolution. I've talked about this on my channel before, that I think doing these debates on YouTube, I think it is a good thing because I think it does, because it is entertaining. I think sort of draws a crowd, and I think that's something that the atheist community can do, is to keep having these discussions, because I just see religion as being the root of so many problems
Mm.
that I can't even get into it. But I think it's good to keep challenging people on this, and um, I guess to have less infighting among atheist groups, uh, and more positive activism, and just I guess increasing the numbers of just getting more people involved, more people being vocal and speaking out about the fact that they're atheists was something that I would like to see specifically.
So stopping that stigma, no pun intended, that stigma associated with it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, AJ. I really like that, because I know that over there is a stigma, and people are afraid to say, hey, I don't believe in a God, because they're instantly, for some reason, they're instantly seen as untrustworthy, and I don't get that. Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm just going to go through and just see if there's any questions. If it's okay with you, AJ, I know that Bree had a question earlier. I thought this was funny. Where did the rumor that you are 5'1" come from? And I know the answer to this because I was there when you sort of found it out.
Yeah. So when I debated Kent Hovind last time, his first slide was saying how I was bisexual and a makeup artist, and that I was 5'1". And he Googled my name, and he had found a fan wiki article that somebody had written about me. I didn't write it. I didn't even know about it at the time, so I had no idea where it
We
came
had to
from.
search for it. Yeah, we actually actively had to search for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had mistakenly put that I was 5'1" on there. It's since been corrected. But yeah, he just copy and pasted the information from there and put it on his slide. So that's where that came from. I thought it was pretty funny though.
Well, I think it's interesting how somebody like this is a sort of problem with the internet, right? That somebody makes a wiki, does a typo. It's a typo, right? Instead of 5'11", it's 5 foot. You just missed the one off the end, and then somebody, with no interest in fact checking their information, uses it as a fact from just some random wiki that someone's made a typo on. And this is a problem. This is sort of, and half the problem is that anybody can put this stuff up on the internet, and half the problem is that you have people, dishonest people like Kent, who will take it as fact because it fits a certain narrative. So I think, that's yeah, it originates from probably a well-meaning fan's typo. That's all. It's ridiculous. Did the panel have any commentary on Pastor Greg Locke's book burning last night?
I didn't know about that.
I did not know about it either. So I guess we don't have a commentary because we didn't know about it.
Well, I will say that there's a little monument. I don't know what you'd call it. I think in Europe, somewhere by Paris or some country around there, and it's a little underground thing where they have a carving where it's meant to look like a bunch of empty books, and it says where they burn books, they'll also burn people, and it's a memoriam of the Nazi book burnings.
Yeah.
So that's still holds true.
Right. Would you burn a Bible or a holy book if you thought it was dangerous?
If I thought the Bible was dangerous?
Well, I mean, the holy book is dangerous because I would consider the Quran dangerous with its ideas. I certainly would. Bible probably less so, but still has some dangerous ideas in it. The whole idea of thought crime and stuff like that.
I would consider myself, because where do you draw the line though? Like, or who gets to decide what book is dangerous and what isn't? That's a can of worms. So I personally wouldn't. I think it's probably better to read it and understand it. I feel like unless it's instructions on how to make a bomb, when it comes to literature, banning is usually not a good idea. like that's a different class of books being dangerous. But when it comes to ideology, it's unfortunate, but I feel like we don't get to make that call.
I would agree with you. I think that there's something about the public book burning that you're sort of more destroying the idea than the information itself. There's something very wrong about that to me. Even if I thought that there were bomb instructions or something, you would dispose of them quietly, like so it couldn't fall into a young person's hands. You wouldn't do a ceremony. And I think the problem for me is the ceremonial idea of this information is unacceptable for anybody kind of thing. Because I mean, bomb instructions, you still need certain people to know what they are, like pyrotechnicists and things like that, people whose job is to dismantle these bombs. They need to know how they're made, right? So I think it's so I've looked up a little bit of information because my Google foo is very advanced and I'm very quick. So apparently it's the QAnon pastor Greg Locke. What a guy. I thought it would be burning Quran or something. No, he's burning Harry Potter and Twilight to fight demonic influences. So my opinion on that is seriously, dude. Not
You guy's a clown.
Wow. I just that's weird and odd and that's something else. Wow. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Reid. That's oh yeah, no, she goes on to say ridding the world of Harry Potter and yoga pants. Yeah. I mean, what can I say? All right. Next up is please ask AJ if you'll debate Kent again. He did awesome last time. Thanks, Home Depot Pale. So what are your thoughts, AJ?
I don't think so. I mean, just another debate on evolution. I don't know. My last debate, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think it was so good. I don't see any reason to really debate him. I thought I whooped him so bad, because I basically got Kent to admit that he accepts evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, he just says that there's some kind of limit on it, which I don't understand. And I think he did awesome last time as well. The scales to feathers thing was killer. The squirrels was awesome. I probably won't debate Kent either again. He has nothing new to say. He's got nothing to challenge you. He's got nothing. He just acts like an ass. It's not really something that is very productive at all.
Yeah, and I feel like he just did a video about me where he keeps using my last name, and I don't know, just based on that, it's kind of like, fuck you. Like, why should I debate you if you're going to keep doing that,
Yeah, and he does have a very childish style of debating. He pulls out his dummy and his SpongeBob and sort of he isn't there to actually hold a challenge of ideas. He's there to insult atheists and anybody that disagrees with him, which is sort of thing. And I guess I've already covered this, but we debate can if rules are established. We did so. The problem here is. The second time I debated him, the first evolution debate I have, he was like, oh, we've got to stick to just a few topics, like 3 topics or something. And I said, no, my thing is 3 topics. They're all on these 3. I will be sticking to them. No problem at all. But I did say, but as long as Kent does the same and Donnie or Standing for Truth said, yes, that's fine. We will keep that. Ken immediately had 20 topics that he rattled off. He got me to agree to a condition and then immediately broke it. So this is the problem with Kent. When he establishes rules, they're rules for you, not rules for him. He gets to break them as much as he wants. And that's a problem when you're debating somebody, because Kent has no compunction being dishonest to put himself in an advantageous position. Like when you go into debating, you sort of think, well, we're both going to be under the same conditions, try to have a fair amount of time, not over talk each other. These are things that matter so little to the man, and that what makes it difficult to debate him.
Yeah, it's like in not your last debate, but the one before it, you told Kent so many times to stop saying that evolution is chance. And then he said it again in this last debate.
Sure.
It's like
Yeah,
disrespect.
absolutely.
At what point is it disrespectful to the other person? Like you're just ignoring them. That's why I get frustrated.
But he doesn't sort of come up with why it is chance. Like, oh, you're wrong, it's chance because of these reasons, and this is the argument that I'm going to present for evolution to be chance. What he just does is repeat the same claim over again. So you'll sort of say, okay, well, it's not chance because natural selection determines who is the best, and sort of present your evidence why it's not chance, and he'll just repeat it. It's very frustrating. I know that I don't look frustrated, but it is very frustrating. Do you have anything more to add on that one, AJ?
Not really. I mean, he was so transparent on the last time I debated him. Like you mentioned, the scales to feathers thing, and shout out to Snake was right, because he was the one who gave me those slides. And they really, I think won me the debate, I would say. The fact that I had those ready. But, I literally showed Ken exactly what he asked. And then he said that, oh, I don't believe you. And that you just imagine that scientists have done this. It's like, well, I just showed you. And I talked about this in the comment section, but he said, show me scales to feathers in the lab. And then I did. And then he said, but that doesn't prove it happened in nature. Well, if Kent had asked me, show me scales turning to feathers in nature, I could, if I showed him that, he would say, well, do it again, do it in the laboratory.
Right. It's no win situation. If you can't do it in the lab, it's got to be in nature. If you can do it in nature, it's got to be in the lab.
That just shows that he's not doing this in an honest way. It's just, tails you lose, heads I win sort of thing.
This may not be to you, but it's very interesting, and I want to bring it up. Do you think evolution has a directionality? It's a very good question.
I think that natural selection does. I think that it doesn't have a directionality in that animals are always trying to get bigger and better and stronger. It's just it is it's going to work with whatever it has to do the best it can to survive, and anything that doesn't make the cut goes extinct. That's why so many animals have gone extinct, is because nature is really brutal. It's very difficult to survive. So that's why we see such specialized body plans. And I think it has a directionality, but not the way the creationists think.
Yeah, so I would absolutely agree. It doesn't have static directionality, like it's aiming for intelligence. I don't think that's the case, but it does aim for survival. So whatever survives and flourishes. It's kind of an interesting question, I think, because sort of with the advent of modern medicine, we've kind of interrupted that process, which was a fascinating topic I could talk about for ages. But I don't think we're aiming towards some specific goal. It's just whatever aids our survival. And I truly think that community and social constructs aid in that survival process for humans. So that's what we're headed towards.
Yep.
Big Bad Mama, always a pleasure. BBM, always good to see you. I love your work. Who are some of the painters you like and are inspired by? And no, that wasn't covered already, but it's a good question.
Vincent van Gogh, Mark Rothko, Picasso, Rembrandt. I like abstract art. Like I didn't show this other painting I did that's just
Oh, well, we'll
really
show it.
weird.
Definitely show it. Yeah, yeah. Come on.
This was just me fucking around and kind of learning how to use my oil paints, but it's like, yeah. I like modern art. Like that's why I like modern art, is because I don't have to worry about it looking like something. I can just experiment. And so that was like the first one I did, so I could just experiment and learn how to use the different paints. But yeah, I think Van Gogh is probably my favorite. And I also like Bob Ross, if that counts. You know, he's not a classical
Sure.
artist, but yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
And
Um,
Monet.
Monet, yeah. I definitely do like Van Gogh. I think my favorite painter is Evard Munch, who painted The Scream. I think that painting, it is the most emotive and it's the most significant to me. There's been a couple of times in my life I've looked at that painting and just said that just speaks to me of how I feel, kind of thing. I think that painting is amazing. It's a shame someone stole it, but whatever. I do also. I love. I don't sure if this counts as a painter as well. I love MC Escher. I love his stairways that are illogical and paradoxical, and the two hands sort of drawing each other. I think his work is just incredible.
Yeah, I also like Francis Bacon and Francisco Goya. And how do you pronounce this guy's name? Bekinski. He's called the Nightmare Artist. He painted some really fucked up paintings. But have you ever?
So what about Salvador Dali? Now that you mention it, yeah, I loved his work. Yeah,
absolutely.
The melting clocks was one that I really loved. The idea of time melting is just amazing.
Yeah, the persistence of memory.
Okay, I haven't heard of them, but yeah, that's really cool.
I'm gonna share my screen.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
that's what that one is called. The melting clocks.
Yes, persistence of memory. Yeah.
So, yeah, can you add my screen share? So, this is Bekinski. He is dead now, but he's a Polish painter. He lived during World War II, and a lot of his paintings have to do with well, he doesn't say that they are specifically had to do with Nazis, but a lot of them where he uses blue, Prussian blue. If you
it's
know,
very melancholic, isn't it? It's very
if you know the story of like the gas chambers and the blue color that was left behind by the chemicals they used. That there's a video on YouTube called The Nightmare Artist about him that's really interesting, and his paintings are really really awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. Just looking for more questions. I think we've got through all of them. If I've missed something, do tell me, chat. I really want to give you a chance to ask AJ while we have him here. But again, AJ, thank you so much for coming on. I think I said it would be an hour and a half. It's actually an hour, coming up to an hour 45. So thanks for hanging in there. And I really appreciate it. I really do. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Maybe I do want to grab your YouTube and put it in the chat. So while I'm doing that, do you have anything else to add or tell anybody about? What's coming up for you?
Well, I will say you can check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/atheistjunior. There's some rewards and tiers on there. There's some videos that are not on YouTube that are only on my Patreon. I published some of them, But yeah, I do put videos on there exclusively, and there's some other rewards and stuff. I have channel memberships now. Um, yeah, I'm not actually sure. I'm wondering. I've been thinking a lot about what my next video is going to be, because the last project was so huge that now that it's been posted,
Right.
I haven't even been thinking about what I'm going to do next. So yeah, I don't know. Big Bad Mama will have to help me with that one.
Well, have you been thinking about any more collabs? I think that's sort of the way I'm thinking, is more working with other people. I think your Pelagia video just sort of inspired me to sort of really collaborate with my peers and the people that I respect so much. Do you have a Patreon link I can throw out there, Atheist Junior?
Well,
I don't.
I'll add the link. Maybe I'll put in a good word with you for Pelagia. I'll tell him to do a collab with
Oh,
you.
that's okay. I don't know. That would intimidate me so much. Like he seems like a nice guy, but I feel kind of intimidated by that a little.
Well, my subs tripled the first video we came out with. They tripled in like
Wow.
2 days. Yeah.
Wow. Wait, are you a mod on here? If not, why not?
I put the link in the private chat.
Okay, I'll put it into the normal chat. So that's AJ's Patreon. I do want to link him because he's spent his time with us here and generously donated his time. But yeah, I'd love to see more of your stuff, AJ. I think it's amazing what you've been doing. I've loved. Oh yeah, you do have a wrench. Good. No, I've loved what you've been doing. I really enjoy that you've sort of stood up to the bullies that are Kent and Matt Powell. I famously hate bullies. I hate people that shove around, people that are vulnerable. So I really do appreciate everything you've done, and I really admire you standing up for Cindy and standing up for the people that are the victims of these kind of attacks. So kudos, AJ. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for everyone in the chat for joining us and sharing your time to listen to AJ and myself. I hope that you've sort of gotten a bit out of it and gotten to know AJ a bit better. He's a great person, and I've really enjoyed having you on. I've got to do more of these because I so enjoy them. Is there anything else you need to add, or anything else that you'd like to mention?
No, I appreciate you asking me some tougher questions or some deeper questions. I think it was an interesting discussion.
I feel like I only just managed to scratch the surface, though. I feel like I can never spend enough time with certain people who are fascinating to me. It feels like I've just gone. I want to pry deeper and get to know your worldview and your philosophical stuff. I know that you're not huge on philosophy, so I've kind of not delved deep into that. But I think I've gotten a lot out of it. So thank you so much. And again, to the audience, thank you for sharing your time. And we will kick it off here. Thanks, everybody. And do have an amazing day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. And be your best you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.